You know, there's a huge safety crisis happening on American roads, but it's probably not the one you're thinking of. It's a crisis that's being fueled by our growing love for bigger, heavier vehicles, and it's completely rewriting the rules of who is safe and who is in danger.
So let's just dive right into the data, because when you look at the numbers, you start to see this really startling trend that's been quietly reshaping our roads for decades. Okay, look closely at these two lines because they tell a wild story. The green line, well, that's good news, right? It shows that for people inside vehicles, cars have gotten way, way safer over the years. But then you look at that black line. That line tells a totally different story. For pedestrians, for cyclists, for anyone not wrapped in steel, our roads have gotten more and more dangerous. Their share of traffic deaths just keeps climbing. And we're not talking about a small change here. This trend has led to a really grim milestone. In 2022, more pedestrians were killed on our streets than in any year for over 4 decades. I mean, think about that. For the most vulnerable people on our roads, we've actually gone backward on safety.
And this slide right here, this is pretty much the smoking gun. See the blue line? That's pedestrian deaths involving regular cars. It stayed pretty flat. But look at that orange line. That's deaths involving light trucks, SUVs, pickups. It has just exploded, jumping by 77% in just 10 years. It's shocking.
So, the big question is, how did we even get here? How did our roads get so completely dominated by these massive vehicles? Let's unpack how the American car market has been totally transformed. The market has just fundamentally flipped. In 2022, almost 80%, that's nearly 4 out of every 5 new vehicles sold, were light trucks. Just to put that into perspective, about a decade ago, it was closer to 50-50. Now, traditional cars are almost a niche product.
And this isn't just about what we call these vehicles. This is a real physical change. We're talking an extra 1,000 pounds, an extra 8 inches in height. That completely changes the physics of a crash and the whole safety dynamic on our streets.
Okay, so why exactly does all that extra size and weight matter so much? Well, it's not just one thing. It really boils down to 3 very specific, very dangerous design hazards.
So, the first problem is the front end of the vehicle. A traditional car with a sloped hood tends to kind of scoop a pedestrian up and over. Now, that's still awful, but it often avoids the most critical injuries. A modern truck or a big SUV, though, has this high, flat brick wall front. It doesn't scoop you up, it knocks you down, and then it's far more likely to pull you under the vehicle, and that is just so much more lethal. The second big hazard is visibility. The sheer height of these hoods creates massive blind zones right in front of the driver. And this quote, wow, it's not an exaggeration. The fact that a blind zone can hide almost a dozen young children is just terrifying. It creates an incredible risk in the exact places we should all feel safest, our own neighborhoods, school zones, and crosswalks. And the third hazard, well, it's just the brutal math of a crash. What does this number, 4.3, mean? It means that for every one life that might be saved inside a big SUV, an estimated 4.3 people, pedestrians, cyclists, people in smaller cars, are killed. It's a safety trade-off where the person in the bigger vehicle wins, but at a terrible, terrible cost to everyone else. So you might be thinking, well, people just like bigger cars. But this massive shift didn't just happen because of consumer taste. It was actually engineered, a lot of times unintentionally, by decades of policy decisions that created a dangerous feedback loop on our roads. So this all really started back in the 70s with a couple of key policies. First, new fuel standards were created, but they set a much lower bar for light trucks than for regular cars. Then, a gas guzzler tax was brought in to penalize inefficient vehicles. But, you guessed it, it completely exempted those same light trucks. The result? A huge financial incentive for automakers to build, market, and sell bigger and bigger vehicles. And those incentives didn't stop there. This tax rule, known as Section 179, literally pays businesses to buy the biggest vehicles they can. A business can write off more than double the cost of an SUV that weighs over 6,000 pounds compared to a normal passenger car. It's a direct incentive to go big.
So here's the crucial point. All of this created what many people call an arms race on the road. As you see more giant trucks around you, you start to feel less safe in your smaller car. So what do? You go out and buy a bigger vehicle yourself, just for protection. But that just makes the roads even more dangerous for everyone else. It's this vicious cycle where individual choices for safety end up creating collective danger.
But here's the good news. We don't have to be stuck in this dangerous arms race. Experts actually have a really clear framework for how we can reverse this trend and design a system that's safer for everyone, not just for those in the biggest vehicles.
The solution is a big shift in thinking called the safe system approach. It starts from a really simple premise. Humans are not perfect. We all make mistakes. So, instead of just blaming drivers, the goal is to design an entire system, from the cars we drive, to the speeds we set, to how our roads are built, that expects human error and makes sure that a simple mistake doesn't become a fatal.
And this approach gives us a clear roadmap. At the federal level, it means finally updating vehicle safety standards to protect people outside the car and closing those tax loopholes that push us to buy bigger. Locally, it can mean using tools like registration fees to account for the danger that heavier vehicles pose. And for the automakers, it means making life-saving tech like pedestrian automatic braking standard on every single car, not just a luxury option.
The vehicles on our roads have changed dramatically in just one generation. And in doing so, they've completely changed the safety equation for all of us. But our policies and our priorities, they've been really slow to catch up. And that leaves us with a critical question to think about.